Good morning, YouTube. This is Jesse with Finding My Wings. I have been realizing a lot of things lately about myself, my childhood, my current life, and I thought there'd be no better time to make this video. It will be a bit emotional. On purpose. I'm riding that out a little bit right now. Alternately, there's two pieces of what I really want to talk about. And the first one, of course, is going to be the emotion of cars, which is probably why you clicked on this video. And the second is just going to be getting lost in your head. For me, I've been getting lost in my head a lot lately. This is, week 60-something of rolling lockdowns in Canada, and quarantine and COVID, and I don't want to get into any of the politics of that, but, we've done a bang-up mediocre job of controlling it, and so myself and millions or billions of other people at this point in time have really just got stuck in their head. There's nowhere else to be. And that's unfortunately, whatever realm you're in, not the greatest place to be. And so I just want you to know that this video isn't just for car people. I know a lot of my videos are the most widely hitting videos because they're all just about my FRS here. Which for many reasons, which I want to get on recording, I want to have in the background here with me today. This video is really for anybody with a passion, especially a passion that really sticks out to you. Every time you get stuck in your head, it comes up. This would be a good time to like, comment, subscribe, and share this. This is going to be a somewhat long video, but I promise you that it's going to be worth the watch. I'm going to be a bit emotional today, but I'm going to edit this video so that it's watchable and digestible and hopefully relatable too. And so I really want to hear from everybody, if you can relate, how you feel about this video and where you're stuck at right now. Like, if you need someone to talk to, I'm here. I really am here. Throw a comment in here. And if you're a real human and you can prove that, then maybe we'll connect on social media. Like, I love connecting with people. That's one of my favorite things to do. So please throw a comment in here and know that you can and someone is listening. As you can see on my other videos, I respond to everything except some of the really stupid spam. It's really just a video about the emotion that we carry on to things, and we carry on to our beliefs, and that we carry on to our passions and our hobbies. For me, it's always been cars. I think for my father, it's also always been cars. I, from a very young age, always got exposed to car toys. They were always my favorite. Got more and more. I absolutely have just glaring memories of all the really cool Hot Wheels that I inherited from my family, or the big model cars that when I was just old enough to not break them, I inherited, that my father had hung on to, or potentially folks even older than that. To me, there's glaring memories of one of those little driving things where you could shift the gears and steer back and forth and try to avoid the stuff, but you had to shift through the gears. As like one of the best toys of my childhood. And then as we got a little bit older, my dad built a computer. And so we got into video computer games, which were amazing and really opened up the world. Of course, computers changed very quickly back then, and so it was only relevant for a short period of time to be able to play the newest stuff. And so at some point, like many people probably watching this video, I got right into Gran Turismo. And so if you don't know, Gran Turismo is simply a racing game. It's like the most perfect, basic racing arcade game that one could imagine, especially a car nerd like myself. And it really opened up this world of cars that North American people had never seen before. People in other countries had never seen before from North America. And some of the earlier games had just so much content. It was amazing. It was a full racing league. It felt competitive. There was good AIs. The graphics for the time were quite good. And so it was engaging. The number one thing for anybody in learning or exploring a passion, whether it's education or driving a racing game or anything. It's just that engagement. And Gran Turismo was definitely engaging. To me, Gran Turismo just lit this fire of anything is possible. There's all this stuff out there. There's people that can buy them. There are $200,000 cars that somebody can go out and afford and buy and live with passionately. And then there's cars that are undervalued. I remember very, very young in my age falling in love with the A86 Corolla because it always just seemed to punch way above its weight class in racing games. It was when you spent countless hours just getting better and better and better at the game and challenging yourself to use a slower car to beat faster cars, it became an amazing, outstanding thing. And that's really just a glimpse into my passion. For somebody else, it can be really anything. It can be a certain way of living with a horse or making something or building things or certain TV shows, really anything. For me, that was just the rabbit hole that I went down of understanding virtual car control because I was just a young kid sitting in this room alone. We grew up in like the middle of the woods basically, so I was alone 99% of the time. I'm not alone, but like with my father or my mother. And so racing games became a big piece of it where I could just zone out and go into it. As I moved through life, we never really had exciting cars. My dad was always very into them, and we had like a really cool, nice Impala when I was really young, but it was kind of near the end of its life, and so it went away during my time. Then my parents focused fully on being able to just support me, so we got like a Ford Escort wagon, an aquamarine blue, aquamarine frost. And cars more like that, Cavaliers, Sunfires, eventually got back into the good stuff, Toyota and Hyundai. But video games, toys, always became a passion. I had lots of scale models. I eventually got into radio-controlled cars, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3. With, of course, if you're watching, you probably know, Gran Turismo 4, probably still the best racing game ever made, sadly. Gran Turismo 6 getting up there, and then hopefully the new one coming out soon is worthwhile. Do I buy an entire PlayStation to play this game? Like, I'm a PC gamer now, but that's how much passion there is in a game like that. So getting more into the getting lost in your mind piece. Getting lost in your mind is really building your own prison. I grew up around occupational therapy, and I could see the difference it made in someone's life. To simply have something to do, to not be stuck in your mind. People that have a criminal background change their life overnight because there's another option. People with mental health issues, people with physical health issues, people with full-out disabilities can change their life overnight just from having something to do. And that's really the definition of occupational therapy. So thanks, Mom. But now we've seen two things. We've seen a pandemic that is real, and, you know, we could learn something in 20 years that finds this as maybe it was a scam, but I don't believe that. And the virology is simple. The stats are simple behind all this stuff. And so no matter what, we needed to have some kind of a response. Unfortunately, a lot of countries like mine didn't know how to respond, and they were pretty lost. They already had years of work ahead of them that was structurally planned, and they now had to drop almost all of it and switch around to shutting the country down and trying to contain the spread of something that really nobody understood. We're every single day in the position where people that need to be doing their jobs properly don't have the information, they don't know what to do. And so all of this is really just to say that we had the pandemic, but now we have a second global epidemic. Whether you're in a country that's reopening or a country that is still stuck in lockdown, people are stuck in their heads. We've left people nothing to do. My past startup was exactly about this, trying to find a new way for people to just interact and help each other outside of academic education, outside of having a formal job. Just a new way to interact with people and help them in the moment and not have to buy into some giant system, but to simply have an app where you can go and actually help people or get help when you need it. And it solves two big problems to me. But of course, I struggled to start that. We coming back to another story, like, I grew up, we didn't have a ton of money. We weren't poor necessarily. Like, we had a really nice house up north at some point in time on the lake when they weren't really worth much. But we were too far away from everything, so we decided to take on the challenge of building our own house. And so we moved back down to more southern Ontario. And during that time, we were doing construction. So I basically was doing construction, as much as a kid can do per age, from like grade 3 until university started, basically. And then there's other jobs in there, very mild farm work, working at the library, teaching computers, things like that. But, when you and your family take on this much of a challenge, there's going to be challenges. And so our whole life was a challenge to try to do every single thing ourselves, build our house, build our cars, build our computers, maintain everything ourselves, try to make our own money, try not to spend any money. And so there was, of course, fights. And as a only child who was somewhat isolated a lot of his life, I'm very extroverted now. There was times that your parents would fight. And so I ended up getting really heavily back into cars. So for me, it was always cars. It was either Grand Theft Auto at that point in time or Gran Turismo. And they were a saving grace. I have special memories of when things weren't great at home. I could just sit down and play Grand Theft Auto or play Gran Turismo and be completely out of my mind. And so there's two parts there. Like, I always thought that playing Grand Theft Auto or Gran Turismo were better than being stuck in your mind, at least. You could learn something from Gran Turismo. You can at least learn the best way to go around a track. If you race the same track like 10,000 times, at some point in time you're going to figure out that there is a way you never thought of to get around that track. And then the first time you're able to go out on the track and get your car here, then you probably learned something. You can learn how a car spins, how a car gets controlled. Gran Theft Auto, completely different realm. I always just did it for the cars, really. There was cool missions, but in all honesty, when I was a kid, I probably never beat a Grand Theft Auto game until I was in like maybe university, and I went back through and tried to beat them all, realizing what I'd done. And so there's some people that say that's a waste of time. But I would argue that you're not stuck in your brain completely. And so it was an escape, and it followed a passion of mine, which was cars. And I wasn't old enough to drive, I didn't have resources to be able to do like go-kart racing or anything like that when I was younger, and we were just way too busy to even contemplate something like that. And so Gran Turismo, Grand Theft Auto, other games, of course. I had lots of PlayStation 2 games, PlayStation 3 games eventually. Bargain bins for life. But that was my escape. And now we're seeing that people that had started their own lives, people that had built a life for themselves, potentially lost their business. They potentially lost their finances during COVID, and they lost their occupation. They lost their livelihood. And so I don't want to get into any kind of a debate around whether we should be locked down or not. There's science that is regionally dependent. So your region will respond differently than another region. Your vaccination rates, the healthier people, the warmth of the climate, the spread rates there, people's consideration for being considerate of each other and just stopping the spread, whatever they believe, they all come into that. But either way, almost all of us has had to deal with, at least for a month or two over the last year, to be completely confined. And that's when you can lose stuff to do. Video games are right in the middle of it. They're partly not in the moment, but they're partly in the moment. You have to be involved with the video game, but you're of course not really interacting with anything else. So when there's nothing else you can really do, then video games are, they occupy you. They can become your livelihood. And in this world, you can make a living playing video games if you're really good and you know how to present yourself properly. I find myself to be pretty good at video games. Even to this day, I've maybe lost a couple races in the last couple of years. Between like Forza and Assetto Corsa and games like that. And so I've debated streaming. So, comment if you think I should stream. My goal with this video is to really just talk about the idea that you need to really embrace your passions. You need to really embrace your hobbies. You need to embrace your emotions too, especially as a man. Or, I mostly identify as a man. I'm pretty lost in all my identities, so I don't cling on to anything too hard. But as a young male, there's a big push to not really be emotional. If the people around you aren't emotional and they try to hide it, then if you don't, you're the odd man out and you don't get included in stuff. People don't really give a shit about you. And I've definitely been through that. I was maybe a little bit more aggressive as a person in like high school because I got into weightlifting and mathletics, and band, and all kinds of stuff. So I really got outside of myself, and I found a lot of stuff to do with my time. And of course, I was still doing construction, as well as working at the library and things like that. So I was pretty well occupied. I never really had issues. I, at some point in time, remembering feeling like I don't understand how people are depressed or anxious, because like I just have so much stuff to do that that's not even an option for me, and I kind of enjoy my stuff that I'm doing. But as it was being a young man and being told, or being generally treated as having emotions weren't good, it also leads back to passions. So for me, I've obviously embraced my passions. I'm really excited to show you my other cars. My other cars are really cool. I'm really proud of them. They're some of the rarest cars in North America. And I'm really excited to make some videos about them shortly. Now that we're finally opening up and getting some opportunity to get the vaccine, I'm going to be comfortable actually making those videos before too long here. But whatever it is, whether it's stitching, tarot, cars, computers, sports, just being outside, planting gardens, being with plants and animals, helping animals, environmental sustainability, or if you're one of those amazing people that we need more in the world of, where you get pleasure from work. And be honest about that, because a lot of people trick themselves into thinking they get pleasure from work, and they really don't when you dig into it. Embrace it and follow it, because you only get one chance at this life. And you can, I know a lot of people now having kids and they can like live their lives through their kids by proxy, live the life that they wanted to have, but at some point you have to realize that there was nothing really stopping you from living that life now. I've been through it. There are options. If you have no money, if you have no resources, there are still networks out there. If you are passionate about starting something or doing something, there are incubator, there are accelerator networks, there's general like community support groups. There is so much stuff out there. It's of course gonna unfortunately require you to take that first step of coming in and being willing to have that conversation, being willing to go and find it, and willing to actually get involved, which is tough when you're really stuck in your brain. When you get stuck in your brain, there's really three places you can go. There's this positive neutral, and so it's just really getting stuck in your happy place. Something that stuck out as pure happiness to you, you can go there and just feel good thinking about it. There's neutral, which is just something that was going on. Just an event. It wasn't really positive or negative, but it was just something that you can replay, relook at many, many times and get really stuck in it. Then there's the negative neutrals, where you are really just stuck in regret, stuck in something scary, stuck in something crappy. And that's no matter what, where you got to avoid. You can see people lose their entire lives because of this stuff. Before COVID, before the pandemic, before whatever thing you think is ruining society, people were still getting stuck in their heads. I know for me, this car was such a big part of it. I knew that after I failed my first startup, I was probably going to need something to keep me tied into being occupied, tied into my own reality, tied into my own passions. My startup really was my passion. And I, of course, messed up a ton. I didn't really have enough money or opportunity to keep going with it at the rate. I'm really planning to get back to it. It's something I still believe in, and I have not seen anybody else build yet. And so maybe you'll see that on this channel one day. So there you go. There's another reason to like and subscribe and share this out. Is I am working on more content, but of course I'm struggling with exactly what this video is about, of being stuck in my brain and trying to figure out how to actually live in my passions. But this car became, I could go for an evening drive, I could spend time, honestly, just looking at it, which is kind of the nice thing about an FRS or BRZ, is it looks pretty damn good. And then now it's become really changing it into what I want it to be. And so there's a couple battles with that, and I have some videos coming about that too, about some insurance battles and some other things coming up shortly that I will post. I'm trying to get some special guests to come in with us and talk to it, because I'm not an expert in these things. But I know that this recording time is getting pretty high here, so I'm going to try to wrap this up a little bit. I don't want anybody to get stuck in their heads. There are times when you are going to be. And I want you to be able to recognize those more easily. I want you to look into support groups, into, not necessarily occupational therapy, but if you can learn a lot of the science behind occupational therapy and just the idea that you can escape your head, you can follow your passions by really just having something to do and having something to put your time and energy and passion into, I think can help immensely. And so it doesn't matter what your passion is. For me, it's been cars and really computers, and then more recently, the environment, animals, and how technology can really benefit society. For you, it could be completely different. For you, it could be trying to make sure I'm not able to do the things that I want to do. And we'll both accept that challenge. So feel free to pursue whatever it is that you're looking to do in life. But I want you to be aware for yourself, and not just for yourself, but for the people around you. When you're getting stuck in those zones, I've had a dream recently where it was a very visible way of saying that when you get stuck in your head, you get captured by demons. And it was very literal in my dream. And this is just a dream, but it's going to be where I leave off this video, once I can get the tears out of my eyes. There's many parts of the video that made me realize of the dream. Sorry, not the video. It feels like a video because it was so deep and visual. But somehow we ended up having a Lamborghini, and we were driving out to a coastal town that looked very much like Grand Theft Auto Vice City, concerningly close. And we'd stopped at a shop, and I don't really remember the primary reason. I think we were hoping that they had some resources that we needed. I don't know. It was a dream. But we had noticed that the shopkeeper really there had been getting stuck in their brain, and it really showed. Their business wasn't well run. They'd obviously been struggling. They had 2 kids at home trying to run this business too, because they weren't in school. Guess lockdown's really in my brain. But what we ended up doing was we talked to them for a while, and we ended up trying to help them with what they were struggling with, of fighting this demon of just being stuck in their head and getting pulled back by it, and being more physically actually attacked and pulled back by it. And we thought we had helped. It's complex, but eventually we were kind of heading on our way out, and I had bought a performance racing seat for my Lamborghini. Nice. And we were on our way to go see, I believe, my parents, or my dad specifically. I'm not sure. And we were driving around, and I was just hard shifting it. It was still a manual gated Lamborghini, and we were hard shifting it, and the seat was pretty low quality, and because we were like, wow, this seat's really cheap for a Sparko racing seat, and one of the seat brackets broke, and so we actually ended up heading back. And this is all my dream, so I have weird dreams. But we came back just to say, hey, the seat broke, is there anything you can do for us, basically? And they were consumed. We had tried to help out, but life just still took a hold. One of their children was completely consumed, and had been consumed by just being in their head and not knowing what to do to occupy their time. So was the owner. And you could see the business was just in disrepair. And I feel like it really speaks to a reality that a lot of people have been facing lately. And so, my advice is, during lockdown, just be smart about it. Don't put other people at risk no matter what. It doesn't give a shit. Nobody fucking cares what you believe, unfortunately. You can. You should enable it. But if you believe that everybody's a loser for wearing a mask, well then don't wear a mask, but don't be around people either. You don't have a right to cough on somebody that doesn't want you to cough on them. Get the fuck away. You know what I mean? And in the rest of life, when COVID is over, or if you're somewhere where that's not an issue, then just follow your passions, follow your dreams, whatever it is. Don't be embarrassed by it. In the car community, there's so much toxicity around that car is shit, or that car is built like shit, or you're just stupid and you don't understand how to do this stuff. Don't put that on people. Worst case scenario, and the part where it really hurts true enthusiasts, is when somebody's doing something to their car that hurts their car. And so if they're installing something that hurts the car actively, if it's too low and it's just smashing the car apart, like, some people really don't appreciate that. But who cares? At the end of the day, you know, there's lots of beliefs of whether there's passion and souls and machines, Deus Ex Machina, but it is just a thing. And so if somebody needs to hurt their car to get through a day, then that's probably where they're going to be that day. If somebody needs to go the exact opposite of that and keep their car just bone stock to keep it within OEM parameters, then that's where they need to be. Let them be. Appreciate it. Like, they're sharing a passion with you, and it doesn't have to be that. It could be that somebody's building tables or planting forests or starting a farm sanctuary, or I don't know. I don't know what people are into these days. Playing video games all day. But enable that and know that it's the same way that you feel about your Mustang, your Corvette, your Challenger, your 8.6 BRZ, your old classic whatever. They feel the same way about the thing that they're doing. And so don't try to detract from it. And I've probably been crap at that a few times in my life, so I'm sorry if there's anybody that I've ever been not enabling of your passions. But you need to follow it, no matter what. I think it will help you find what you really want to do with your life. If you want to be working in the automotive industry, that's how you're going to figure it. If you don't want to be working in the automotive industry and you want to keep that as a passion, it'll help you figure that out by chasing it. And of course, I don't want to have anybody that goes into debt for chasing this stuff. So be smart about it. I think the thing that I always had against like old muscle cars was they're so expensive. Growing up, like a 71 Chevelle SS 454 is like a $70,000 car. And every time you drive it, it costs like $100 in fuel because it's so bad on fuel. And like, that's not fun to me anymore. And for some people, that'll be the most fun thing you can do. And I appreciate it. Those cars rock. But don't go into debt from it. That detracts from a lot of the fun from it. But also, if you really have to go into debt just to get through a day, then have a plan. Have an understanding of how you can get back out of that. Or if this is going to get you to that next point where you can actually get a different job or find a different income stream to get back there. So all this to say, follow your passions, follow your dreams. Anything is possible. I've almost started a major business, and I did fail, but I plan to go back to it. I had to have some time to get back to my passions and find myself a little bit. It came up at a weird time in my life, but be nice to people around you, be considerate, and like I said, we're all having a hard time right now, so do everything you can to reach out and make sure that people around you are enabled to follow their passions too. Some of us have more enablement than others, and we need to be able to help others with that. And so I'll wrap up, and I want to say thank you for watching. This is Find My Wings. This is Jesse. In the words of another Jesse, there's something about cars that really just calms me down. So thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this out. I want to make some better content. I'm going to show my really cool cars that I think you're going to enjoy, and are very surprisingly related to this FRS BRZ, and we have more stuff coming for the FRS BRZ, so that's exciting. So thank you for watching. Hope you're doing well. Be safe, be healthy, and please check back soon.